On June 3rd every year at Namgongo, the Christians celebrate 45 Catholic and Anglican martyrs who were killed by burning and beheading for their faith on orders of Kabaka Mwanga of the Kingdom of Uganda between 1885 and 1887. The arrival of the Christian missionaries, Anglican and Catholic, set the stage for new developments and marked a turning point in the religious lives of the people of Uganda, as well as the political structure of the kingdom and the region at large. The history of Uganda from this point on took a different turn. The untimely death of Mutesa I in 1884 left the kingdom in the hands of Mwanga II. Mutesa had the maturity of dealing with conflicting forces that struggled to influence his court. The Arabs, that is to say the Muslims, the Catholics, or the Protestants, operated, of course not without constraint, with some minimal success during his reign. The Arabs also, having seen the Christian missionaries' effort to convert local people to Christianity, also started to teach Islam. There was a competitive struggle among the preachers of the new creeds, each attempting to assert more influence and recognition among the influential people in the inner circle of the king's court. The king himself never committed to any single creed. The Muslims denounced him for his refusal to be circumcised, and he could not be baptized in the Christian denominations because he did not want to give up polygamy. The Christian religion was received with much excitement by the converts, but it came with its own requirements. It denounced all the native religious behavior and practices as satanic. Therefore, joining it meant a commitment to break away from the old-style life, make and adopt new alliances, and adjust to new moral and religious standards. The new flock of believers, therefore, were seemingly regarded as rebels who had transferred their reality to new religious systems. So the people who were killed, whom we call martyrs now, were killed because they denounced their old religious beliefs and took over the new Christianity that had come in by missionaries in Uganda. Although Mwanga had shown some love for the missionaries as a young prince, his attitude changed when he became a king. The once lively prince, in support of the missionaries, turned into an intolerant persecutor of Christians and all foreigners. It was hardly a year after Mwanga's assumption of the throne that he ordered the execution of Joseph Rugarama, Maka Kakumba, and Noah Serwanga, the first three Christian martyrs who were killed at Busega Natete on January 31st, 1885. In October of 1885, Bishop James Huntington headed to the Eastern Equatoria of Africa, which was headquartered in Uganda. He was murdered in Busoga on his way to Uganda. Mwanga had ordered his death. Huntington's crime was to attempt to come to Uganda through Busoga, a shorter route than that employed by earlier visitors who took the route from south of Lake Victoria. Uganda's kings considered Busoga as a backdoor to Uganda and thought that anyone coming through the backdoor must have evil intentions towards the kingdom. Joseph Mukasabali Kudembe, a senior advisor to the king and a Catholic convert, condemned Mwanga for ordering Huntington's death without giving him a chance to defend himself, as it was a custom. Mwanga was annoyed that Mukasa would question his actions, and he had him arrested and killed. On November 15, 1885, Mukasa became the first Catholic martyr when he was beheaded at Nachivubo. Between December of 1885 and May of 1886, many more converts were murdered. On the 26th of May 1886, as a ceremonial opening of the death march, Potian Ngondwe was speared by Mukajanga, the chief executioner. His corpse was hacked and pieces scattered to all directions at Tabataba, a mile away from Munyonyo on their way to Mengo. In the morning of 27th May 1886 at Mengo, Athanasius Bazekuketa, who was thirsty for martyrdom, volunteered to be executed at a spot on the foot of Mengo Hill where Joseph Mukasabali Kudembe, his leader, had been martyred earlier. On the same day, while at Old Kampala, on his way from Mengo to Namgongo, Martyrs Kalemba Mulumba refused to walk further in demand for execution. His hands were cut off first, flesh removed from his back and roasted, then his legs cut off, blood vessels and veins tied, and traditional herbs applied to his wounds to stop them from overbleeding. He died 3 days later from thirst. The Uganda Martyrs had to walk for over 10 miles to reach Namgongo. But about a mile from their destination, Gonzaga, who could hardly keep up with the pace, collapsed at Lubao Hill. He was speared at about midday on 27 May 1886. In Namgongo, the Uganda Martyrs were confined for about a week before execution. In that time, the executioners went about with preparatory activities like collection of enough firewood and cutting of reeds to be used in the event. This took until 2nd of June. The 3rd of June 1886, on the feast of the Ascension, Charles Lwanga became the first victim of the rain. Senkole, the guardian of the sacred, fused and singled him out, following the traditional procedure of a ritual execution, which prohibited his presence at the actual scene of a large execution, but later expected to select one victim and burn him apart from the others. Senkole took Charles Lwanga to a spot about 50 yards from the road. Charles was allowed to arrange his own deathbed of firewood, then wrapped in reeds, laid on the pile and burned slowly from the foot to the head at about midday on the 3rd day of June 1886. Achilles Kiwanuka, Mukasa Ludigo, Ambrose Chibuka, Anatoly Chirigwajo, Bruno Serunkuma, Javira, James Buzalirwao, Kizito, Luke Banabakintu, Mbaga Tuzinde, Mugaga and Mukasa Chiruwawamvu are the 12 Catholics that were burnt in the Great Namgongo, together with 13 Anglicans and 6 other prisoners that were on death sentence for other offenses other than religion. Martyrs killed outside Namgongo include Joseph Mukasa Bali Kudembe and Baze Kuketta at the city of Kampala, now known as St. Bali Kudembe Market. Dennis Sebugwao and Andrew Kagwa killed at Munyonyo. Potiani Ngondwe killed at Chamula. Mathias Kalemba Mulumba killed at Old Kampala. Noe Mawagali killed at Chiinda Mityana. Gonzaga killed at Kamuli, Lubao. And lastly, John Mary Muzei killed at Mengo Chiseng. Rather than deter the growth of Christianity, the martyrdom of these early believers seems to have sparked its growth instead. As it has been observed in many other instances, the blood of the martyrs proved to be the seed of faith. Christianity is now the dominant faith in Uganda and Uganda as a whole. The 22 known Catholic martyrs were declared blessed by Pope Benedict in 1920. This is one of the key steps in the Catholic tradition that eventually leads to canonization. The 22 Catholic martyrs were indeed canonized by Pope Paul VI on October 18, 1964, during the Second Vatican Conference. These martyrs were now recognized by the Universal Church as being worthy of being honored as saints. To honor these modern saints, Paul VI became the first reigning pope to visit Africa when he visited Uganda in July 1969, a visit which included a pilgrimage to the site of the martyrdom at Namgongo. He also dedicated a site for the building of a shrine church in honor of the martyrs at the spot where Charles Lwanga was killed. The shrine church was dedicated in 1975 and it was subsequently named a Basilica Church, a high honor in Catholicism.